we're still watching these negotiations play out in Washington, D.C. Of course, a piece of that bill would include a new injection of money into the Paycheck Protection Program. And as that gets debated this week, we're also seeing controversy around it hit yet another small business. You can call it a small business, but it is a mega church. Televangelist Joel Osteen, the latest to get criticized for tapping the program after it was revealed that his Houston megachurch received more than $4 million through the PPP, according to federal data cited by the Houston Chronicle. In a statement from the church to the Houston Business Journal, stressed that Osteen himself didn't take a salary from the church. He hasn't since 2004, and that the money went to supporting the more than 350 full and part-time staffers after that church shut down for a few months there. But Aikiko, I mean, when we talk about the backlash that he's receiving now, that other big publicly traded companies received earlier in the year from tapping PPP money and then returning it, the supporters always point out that, look, this money is designed to get in the hands of workers who are struggling through the shutdown, not necessarily just benefiting the company across the board. And really, that would reduce the strain on the unemployment systems that a lot of these workers would have to tap otherwise here. But a little bit in back and forth every time we hear of a new business identified in the data shown to have tapped the program.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about some of those companies that got a lot of flack early on in the pandemic, it was Shake Shack, Cheesecake Factory, Roots Chris. A lot of these companies who some would argue didn't necessarily need the help as much as some of the smaller businesses. But of course, the rules were laid out so that they could seek the help. And as Congress right now looks to debate how much additional funding for the Paycheck Protection Program, no question there's going to be additional calls for some strings to be attached here so that those small businesses who didn't get the loan initially will be able to get the loan this time around. You heard Warren Buffett on CNBC today saying it's the small businesses that are really in crisis right now that really need the help, especially as states increasingly look to additional restrictions in the face of this most recent surge. It's an interesting take here, but I think it does speak to your point, sort of the larger story, which is this isn't just about one mega church, about some of these big companies, including the Lakers franchise. Remember, they also tapped into the PPP loans and then ended up returning because of the backlash. It feels like, 8 months later, we're still sort of talking about the same thing and seeing more and more where the money went initially and who actually missed out on it. A lot of times, those businesses the most vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, and you want to stick with the sports theme. There's also Tom Brady's TB12 that got its own flack when they tapped that. And C3AI, we had them on in their S1 and their filings to go public. They were talking about that being a potential risk. They said they paid back the money that they got through that program to kind of alleviate them of that risk. But there's still the PR risk of being a company that's now, more than doubled on day one. You can access the public markets that way. Why do you need the Paycheck Protection Program? And I think a lot of the stress now in this latest wave against Joel Osteen, we saw that before as well. Some loopholes in this being extended by the Trump administration to kind of allow religious institutions that a lot of people point out might not pay taxes to tap federal taxpayer money here in this. And a lot of stress being put on the Catholic Church as well. AP reporting there potentially more than $3.4 billion getting distributed across their churches when you do the tally, and that was back in April. So when this gets more and more extended, there are going to be more and more people tapping this program, and each time we could see potential controversies stem from it, depending on whether or not those companies and those small businesses eventually start to pay that money back, or if they choose to. But again, as you pointed out, those are the rules. And unless those get addressed in the next wave here, that expectation is still going to be there.
Yeah, those rules are certainly going to have to be hammered out, especially with so many small businesses struggling right now.